Hey T, happy anniversary. What's going on? All right. Hey pretty little Siobhan. Thank you all for joining us. Checking in. You welcome. There's our stranger, bestie, Deborah. I think it's been about 5 days, but who's counting? Mommy! Hey, LT. We were lieutenants together. That's my LT right there. The only person I let challenge me.
What's up, Mama Bear? She's saying, hey, my children. What's up? What's up, Mama Bear?
What's up, Pammy P? What's going on? All right, I'm going to wait about 30 more seconds and we're going to get started. Episode 5. Thank you all who have been tuning in every episode. Even if you missed it, you had to work, you had family, whatever you had going on, you still tuned in the next day, gave us some support, so really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Hello. All right, it's 6:01.
Yeah, it's going to get started.
All right, so episode 5. Now, this was a very, very interesting topic, right? Usually, I start off, but I'll probably still start off because I'm in the mood to just be talking. All right, so the name of the episode today is, as always, I always talk. How do you deal with a situation where your spouse upsets you in public? Very interesting topic. It happens. It'll probably happen to anyone that's been in any type of relationship, especially when you're in a serious relationship. Let me start.
Yeah, you said you was going to start.
All right, I just want to be polite, order, leadership. All right, so the first thing that I would say is try to remain calm. Because a lot of times we want to react. A lot of times we want to get the last word, or we don't want to be, because we're embarrassed, and I think that brings the reaction. So the first thing I would say is take a deep breath, because sometimes, depending on the setting, not sure if a person is drinking or if a person is around friends that they may have not been around, they may have been around colleagues, or just whatever. I'm not sure what the arena, but whatever the arena is, the atmosphere, I would say to remain calm. Once you get an opportunity to say something, my recommendation would be to definitely say something. Me and Tobias, because we've known each other for so long, he knows my body language, my eye contact, so I will give him the eye to say, why did you say that? Or what are you doing? And we can tell off of each other, if I went to the left or he went to the left, because again, I'm very boisterous and opinionated. Sometimes he is worse than me. For those of you who don't know, he's going to say exactly what's on his mind, no cut card at all. So I would say give them some type of signal to say, like, enough is enough. I don't believe in, and that's something that my parents taught me down to my grandparents, my mother, my grandmother, even one of my aunts, Aunt Denise. Like, no one should know your business, right? So you don't want to embarrass your spouse. You don't need people in your business, because people are not in your relationship, and it can be something that's minute, something that he may say that it does upset you, but you don't need an audience. You don't need a crowd, right? You don't need, because people will take something, it can be, maybe he got smart, whatever, I got smart, and they'll take it to 100, and it's something that it ain't even that serious. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. This is a very interesting topic, because this can have a detrimental impact on how people treat your spouse in the future. Mm-hmm. So what you guys have to understand is, just because you're upset doesn't give you the right to cause a scene or a big fight. Whether that's talking loud, over talking one another, it doesn't give you that right. I think when you're upset at your spouse, or your spouse does something to get you upset, I think you need to take a breath, like she was saying, and like Tony was saying, and I think you you need to put yourself in the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that when you do things like this, right, you get upset and you react in a negative way is where you just blow up. These things happen when we're around people that we're familiar with, whether it's close friends, whether it's family. Because you're really not going to have a blow up in front of people you don't know at all. If your spouse or your significant other gets you really upset, you're gonna hold that in for a minute, and then you're going to express yourself after the fact or after the event is done. So when we do blow up, it's usually around people we're familiar with. The problem with that, when you do blow up, the problem with that is you can cause confrontation, but I don't think the confrontation between you and your spouse or you and your significant other is the big deal. What I want you guys to realize is when you do things like that, you give an open door for other people to disrespect your spouse.
That's true.
So with that familiarity that I'm talking about is when you're doing this around family, your family in the future will think it's okay for them to also disrespect your significant other. And what you have to understand is that if you do this enough, you always blow up when your spouse or your significant other gets you upset. Your family is going to subconsciously think it's okay to disrespect you as well because you're family.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, they tend to take sides because of their bias, right? Because
Of
even
course.
though my family, because we've been together so long, you're like their child, right? And vice
Of course.
versa.
Of
But at
course.
the end of the day, well, your uncles, they all take my side. But what I'm saying is they're going to be biased and it can cause further confrontation. So I would say
Correct.
also evaluate the situation. Like, is it that serious, right? Even though they made you upset, do you have to really address it right now, right?
Correct.
Like sometimes
Exactly.
we get so emotional, male or female, and we tend to just blow up. So some things is like evaluate the situation. Now, if it's something disrespectful, then I would say,
Yeah, that's
hey,
totally
can I
different.
talk to you? We need to
That's
have
totally
a conversation,
different.
right?
Yeah.
So I
Totally
see that
different.
Kelly told my team to bias. I'm about to block her, right? You know, I'm the blocking queen, right? I'm just playing bestie. No, but seriously, like, evaluate the situation. If it's something disrespectful, or if maybe the person, the alcohol, whatever it may be, may have gotten the best of them, or maybe they said something, they have looked at someone and you took it as disrespect, whatever the situation may be, pull the person to the side if you can. I'm not sure how that person will be respond. He knows if I need to speak to him, he can tell by my body language or the way I'm cutting my eye that it's time for us to talk and have a conversation. So I think that would be best. And then the main thing I would say, if it's not that serious, like, move on. I think a lot of times we give the devil too much opportunity to get in our relationships, right? Like that back and forth and confrontation. Somebody pissed you off. A lot of people are going to piss you off, right? You don't want it to be your spouse and the person that's closest to you, but you're going to be in traffic and someone is going to cut you off, right? People are going to do things in the workplace or in your business. People are going to do things something that's going to give you some type of reaction. So again, my recommendation would be is give you eye contact like I do all the time. And then also when you have that private time with that individual, like you need to really say how you feel. Look, we was out last night. I wasn't feeling the way you spoke to me, or I wasn't feeling the way you ignored me. Whatever the situation may be, it goes back to that communication. And I'm going to ask the audience, do you feel, put a 1 if you ignore it when your significant other, spouse does something to you that upsets you in public, or do you address it? If you address it right then and there, put a 2 in the comment section. If you wait or if you ignore it, put a 1 in the comment section, because I'm interested to know how do you currently deal with these situations. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, this is a good topic because, you know, hopefully if you're with a person and you're married, you're trying to stay that way. You're trying to stay with this person one way or another. And this is just the inevitable. Someone getting you upset is going to happen, okay? It doesn't mean they're doing it on purpose, but something is going to happen is where you get upset or you dislike what your spouse is doing in public, okay? Now, if it's super disrespectful, if it's just blatant disrespect, that's different. I think you need to handle it right then and there. That's not something that needs to slide. But if it's something like someone says something, or someone is not agreeing with you for some reason or another, that's no reason to cause a blow up. Someone, goes somewhere and then comes back, that's no reason to blow up. You understand? We can save that for later, and we can talk about that later. That's not disrespecting me, is where I'm looking at you funny and everyone else is looking at me funny because I'm letting you stomp all over me. So pick your battles, understand what's going on, and move accordingly. A lot of 90 to 95% of the time, it's not that serious to blow up. You don't have to blow up right there. So don't do it. Don't do it. You don't have to prove you're a tough guy, whether that's a female or a man. You don't have to prove you're the tough one in the relationship. Because at the end, believe it or not, both of you end up looking silly anyway, because now your business is out there in the street.
And I see a lot of ones in the comment section. I like that some of you are so straightforward. Ones and twos, depending on the situation, but you'll address it in the car. And the question was, for those of you who asked that missed the question, was if the discussion today is if your spouse, significant other, did something to upset you in public, how would you address it? So I asked, do you ignore it at that time? Put a 1. Or if you feel the need to address it, put a 2. And I would agree, it does depend on the situation. I think a lot of times Tobias really touched on it really well. We just blow up and respond, and it is embarrassing. All people are going to do, even your closest friend and family, they're going to talk about you. Oh, trouble in paradise. Oh, they not getting along. Oh, how long they're going to last. Oh, it's problems in a relationship. And something that Deborah, my mom, a lot of people have witnessed through our relationship. This is the only time since we've been doing this live. If you're not my family member or someone that's extremely close to me, I don't let people in my relationship, because at the end of the day, unless you're an expert, I don't feel that you are professional. Like a therapist, I don't feel that you can tell me anything about my mate, right? That I don't know because of the time that we've been together. No, I don't know it all. We both don't. Again, there's no perfect situation, but I think there's always biases. I think a lot of times people look at situations based on their viewpoint or their past traumas and things that they've been through. So a lot of times I don't let too many people in my relationship. You understand? Because a lot of times all that outside noise is a distraction. And when you really get to know who the person is, that individual, and you have that connection, you don't need to tell 50 people what's going on inside your household, because 50 people are going to have different opinions, and you just never know who's really rooting for you and who's not. A lot of times people will be screaming like they're a cheerleader and do a backflip, but at the end of the day, they're praying on your downfall. So what I do is get on my knees and I pray, or I'll speak to my parents and my sisters and my best friend and one of my aunts. I don't have those conversations because I feel there's no need to have those conversations. And I appreciate all the feedback that you all are putting in there.
So problems with my wife, don't discuss them.
There you go.
Biggie. So the thing is like, it's not that you have a perfect marriage. It's not that you have a perfect relationship with someone. Anyone with common sense knows better than that. The thing is that you just don't want to put things out there as that don't need to be out there, right? And it's not saying that, okay, so if I say something later, this relationship will look good. No, that's not necessarily it. Again, it depends on the situation if you should say something or not. It's just most of the time, you don't need to say anything. You're not being disrespected in that way. Tony just touched on something really important, past trauma. So just because you have past trauma with something doesn't mean that it's going to happen again in this situation. So let's say you had a boyfriend back in the day, they would say something that triggers you. So now when you hear that word from anyone, you're triggered. So let's say your spouse, significant other, says that word to you in a public setting. Now you're ready to go off because of what? Past trauma.
Right.
So it's not always the same. Again, you got to remember, it's a team thing.
That's
The
right.
relationship, it's a unit, and in order to be strong as a unit, you want to look strong as a unit, right? Because perception is everything. So just remember that when you get into a situations where you think you have to say something. Tony said, take a breath. Is it really that serious? Do you really need to blow up on something that was done that probably wasn't done on purpose to get you upset or to have you explode?
And I like something that little Siobhan put in the comment section. She put 50 people will tell 50 other people. Yeah, let me touch on that really quickly. Everybody has a friend. Even my best friend has another friend that's very close to her, right?
Correct.
We all have conversations, and sometimes it's not even conversations that is meant to be harmful, right? Everybody has another friend, and sometimes we may slip up, misconstrued. We say things that are not really that serious, and it could be blown up. So again, to me, less is always more. Again, if you're not a professional, I don't need an audience, right? You and your spouse can figure it out. The best advice is the Bible, or you're going to get professional advice from someone who's trained in that field. But everybody else, and again, I always go back to, if they haven't been in a situation or they don't have experience, how can they really school you on something? Just like going back to a business. I can't ask a person that's not an entrepreneur, how can I really be successful in this business if they've never done it? I can't ask someone that's not a leader to help me with guiding and leading someone. They just don't have the experience. They may mean well, they may have an opinion, they may want the best for you, but they really can't help you. So that's why I'm big on communication. Anything that I feel with this man, or really anyone that's close to me, but especially this one sitting next to me, Tobias, I tell him, because I'm not the type, I can't take that internal stress. That's why people drop dead, have heart attacks, break out, look old. I'm not doing none of that at the end of the day. Like, I got a situation, this is bothering me, whatever it may be, we're going to discuss it. And we're not going to take 10 days to discuss it either. Like, it's on my mind. I'm important to you. You need to hear me out. Anything else before we go into the marriage mailbox?
No, I'm a basically leave it right there. Just think about it. I can't reiterate that enough. Think about it. Just think about what happened. You may not need to blow up. It may not be that serious. You understand? Just think about it. Take a second, pause, and then move on.
Very good point, Shonda. So, going into the marriage mailbox, this is juicy today. I love you all. When I say we really appreciate you, y'all give us some good things, right? So, the first question, and I'm going to go in. Is it okay to do a girls or guys trip if you are married? Excuse me, let me read that again. Is it okay to do a girls or guys trip if you are married? If so, what's the protocol? All right. So, I would say, depending on your situation, you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead. Set it up right. You done win already.
Right.
Might as well keep it going.
So I would say something that my mother taught me: how you start a relationship, excuse me, is how you end it, or how it goes throughout your relationship. So if you were taking girls' trips prior to you getting married, then that's something that your spouse is already accustomed to, right? I don't personally believe in my husband going on a guy's trip or me taking a girl's trip if it's outside of my very close-knit friends or family. I'm not saying that it can't happen in the future. I'm just saying with us, what works for us, we share a lot of our experiences together, right? And the friends that we're very close to, we visit each other, we do dinner. But when it comes to, it all depends on what you're comfortable with. Some people are not really trusting their spouse. Sometimes they just don't have that relationship. Like sometimes they may not too. With me, I love the experience that me, him, and Majesty have when we go to different places or countries and we get to have that as one. I think a lot of times we, again, because you may not feel comfortable, or it depends on what kind of trip is this for, right? Yeah. Is this a bachelorette trip? Is this someone that's very close to you that's getting married and it's something and you're a bridesmaid? Then I would say, okay, that's acceptable. Is this something that you're doing with your single friends, right? You have to look at the situation to see what works best for you and your spouse. But I would definitely say I don't believe in, first of all, where you going, right? My husband's not taking no trip to the DR. He's not taking no trip. That's not happening. And I'm not taking no trip that y'all be creeping in Jamaica with the men. That's not what, that works for us, right? If we want to look at someone, we look at each other, or we go to, across the country and beaches and we compliment each other. But all of that doesn't work for us. But go ahead.
Repeat the question for me, please.
Is it okay for you to do a girls trip or guys to do a trip if you're married, and what's the protocol?
I don't have a problem with Tony taking trips. I don't think guys should have a problem with their wife taking trips. The reason being is because you guys plan on being together forever, right? You can't spend every moment together, right? There are times where the next person needs their space a little bit to hang out with their friends. I don't have a problem with you going out on a trip with your friends, hanging out, doing whatever for a few days. I don't have a problem with that because I trust you. I trust Tony to do the right thing. Again, the investment is not in other people. The investment is in Tony. So until she proves me wrong, then I have to remove that investment out of her. But as of right now, she's trustworthy to me.
As of right now, what you mean prove me wrong?
I mean,
something.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So at this point in time, there's no reason for me not to trust her. Bottom line. Okay. I think this is also important that you guys need to realize and understand. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
That's true.
So if you get to go on a girl's trip, your man gets to go on a trip as well. What you need to do is you need to be real with yourself, like I said a few episodes ago. You need to look yourself in the mirror and be real with yourself before you're real with anyone else. If I take this trip, am I comfortable with my spouse taking a trip as well? If you can't honestly say yes to that, well, you got to think about that a little bit. You don't need to be taking a trip because you're not going to sit there, take trips, vacations with your friends, and your spouse is not able to do that. So first of all, what you have to understand and what you have to think about is, even before you ask your spouse, do they mind if you're going on a trip, is you need to ask yourself, would I let him or her take this trip without me? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing you need to ask yourself. If the answer is no or maybe, you don't need to go.
And I think also, just to add to that, is how you conduct yourself, right? Like when you're going on a trip, are you conducting yourself like a married woman or someone that's in a relationship? And some people don't care when you go on these trips. It's whatever, right? Not to say that everybody's just getting loose when they go out the country or wherever they may go. It's nothing wrong with, I don't want anyone to get twisted on what I'm saying as far as entertaining your friends and doing things with your friends. And that's a segue into the second question. But what's going on this trip? Remember, you're always judged or looked at as a unit, right? So if you're on a trip together, you're on a girl's trip or you're on a guy's trip, and other people are entertained or getting into things that your spouse wouldn't approve of, and you're in that company, you're going to be looked at as the same thing. So I just want you just to look at surroundings and how you conduct yourself. I always look at how I conduct myself as a married woman because I never want anyone to have anything on my husband. So I always try to be, I'm not perfect, but I always try to have less conversation. I don't entertain a lot just because of, it's just in my character, but I believe that's very strongly as a wife. So again, just to recap on the question, it's what works for you. I agree with you wholeheartedly regarding look at it the opposite way. If you don't have a problem with your mate going on a trip with the guys, then let it work for you. If this is something that y'all have been doing prior to you being married and you feel comfortable with it, then fine, and vice versa regarding the females.
The protocol is discussing it with your spouse. Mm-hmm. That's the protocol.
And being real with yourself.
Right, that's the protocol. And it's not necessarily asking for permission.
How do you feel
It's about getting your spouse's point of view on the whole situation, period. I'm not the type to sit up there and tell my wife she can't do something. I'm going to tell her I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea. But that doesn't mean she doesn't want to do it.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
And
so the protocol is discuss it first with your spouse. It's not asking for permission, it's giving respect. Because you're about to go maybe hundreds of miles away or thousands of miles away. You just want to give your spouse that respect. That's all. That's the protocol. And then you proceed with what you're going to do.
And question number 2 actually falls in line. What are your thoughts on ladies' night? Is it okay if you're married? Which is similar to the question. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go on that one first. So what's going on with ladies' night is the question. Everyone has their own meaning of ladies' night. When we usually hear ladies' night, it's not anything positive, usually, but it can be positive. Okay, ladies' night, you hear that as usually get loose, hang back, mess around a little bit, club hop or something like that. But it's not. I'm talking about just like be more free spirited. Okay, when I say mess around a little bit, be more free spirited. I don't think there's a problem if I'm okay with my wife taking a trip with her friends. I'm definitely not having a problem with her hanging out with her homegirls or her people whenever she wants to. I don't have a problem with that. What goes through my mind when my wife says she's going out or she wants to hang out with her friends or what have you is, okay, well, what are you guys doing? Where are you going to be at? That's basically what's on my mind. As soon as she tells me that, okay, fine. Have a good time. See you later.
So let me answer this really quickly. So this weekend, I went out to my sister's social club, Delaware Social, an amazing club, over 6,500 members in less than 4 months, right? And we had quite a bit of men there. And let me just say this to you married and engaged women. You need to go out with your men. These women, and I've been off the market for a very long time, 19 years, but they throw themselves at married men. And I seen it like firsthand on Friday. Like clear as day. Even you can see from the body language, and then just me, because of my law enforcement background, always listening, even when
it's called being nosy,
whatever you may call it, inadvertently. But I kept, I'm picking up on conversations, and people, they really, when I say they have an attraction to married men. So women, there's nothing going on. I think actually you need to be missed. You need your time, and the same thing for men. There's nothing wrong with you going out with your boys or going out with your girls, as long as you conducting yourself and not doing things that single women are doing. But let me say this. Make sure sometimes you go out with your spouse, because a lot of times it's open game. People are going for theirs, right? And a lot of times, who knows what's going on in your relationship? Sometimes men may be vulnerable or vice versa. Things may not be going on right, the way it should be. And they're waiting for their opportunity. Let me say that very clear. They're out there waiting, right? So, and I'm talking about y'all females, because y'all a little loose. And I'm talking about the professional ones, the business owners, the OBGYNs, the doctors. They're throwing themselves at those men. So just be cautious of that. But also, you need time. You need time to socialize with someone that's the same gender. You need time to really have conversations. Plus, you want your mate to miss you. Like, you can't be with them 24/7, right? You need time to be your own individual. You need to socialize. You made relationships, like I said that before. You have to have some type of hobby. You got to be doing something. You don't want a person to get tired of you. But I also believe in make sure you two are going out and dating each other as well. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with, I try to do something with my girls at least once a month. I'm not going out every weekend, because at the end of the day, I am a married woman and my family comes first, and there's nothing out there that really entertains me, right? If it's not about what's next as far as my goals, like my family comes first, I'll make sure if it's a birthday celebration, if it's something like a wedding, a bridal shower, I'm going to always support my team, my crew. But at the end of the day, I'm not hanging out all the time. That just doesn't work for me. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, you just got to be, cautious of what you're doing out there. Tony put it in the ways where men are always being tracked down by these single women, married men, and
Sometimes they're not single. Sometimes they're married too.
Right. So
Men and other married.
you just have to be cognizant of what's going on around you in those situations. And I think a good question for a man to ask themselves, and this is for a woman too, I think a good question to ask yourself if you get into a situation is where someone is pushing up on you and you're married or you have a strong relationship, is this worth it? Is it worth throwing away what I have for this person?
I know that's right.
And 9 times out of 10, it isn't. So if it isn't worth it, don't mess anything up.
That's right.
These things can be tough. These things can be hard for people. It may not be as easy as I'm saying it, and I understand that. But you have to come to your senses and say, is this worth it? Is that worth it?
Yeah. And then sometimes too, again, know your mate. Know what works for your household and your relationship. A lot of times your significant other may not have friends and they may not want you going out because they don't have anybody to hang out with. That's why I always say keep you some friends, keep you some hobbies. Make sure like you don't want to get bored in your relationship. It's 6:31. I see.
Yeah, it's 6:31.
It goes really, really quickly.
It goes really fast, but it's 6:31.
Yes, they are acting like that. Like this is what, girl. Yes, I've always heard stories, but I saw it for myself. I'm like, they are really throwing themselves. But it is what it is. What you do, you get back, right? So that being said, we thank you for your time. It was a very interesting topic for us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you tuning in week after week. This is the end of episode 5, and we will be doing episode 6 next Sunday. Tell a friend, if anyone that you think is interested to hear our perspective, our viewpoint on marriage. Give them my social media information. Anything else?
Yeah, just tune in. If you want some good advice on something or you want to hear our point of view, just like Tony was just saying, tune in and get some information. You may get something out of what we're saying. It may help you out. And that's what we really want to do. If you can find something that is valuable, that's great. That's what we want to give out. So thank you guys for joining. We appreciate it.
Thank you. You can turn it off for me. Wait. Oh.